Fall is here. Welcome to fall. And while it's cozy, it could be a little overwhelming. Shorter days, you have stress piling up. And let's be honest, sometimes we just need a moment to be able to breathe. Today, I'm showing you how to make your very own DIY stress relief candles that are calming, cozy, and perfect for fall self care nights. And the best part, they're natural, they're affordable, and they smell better than anything that you'll ever buy in the store.
Good morning, or good afternoon, or maybe it's evening. It doesn't really matter what time it is, and it doesn't even matter where you are. We want to welcome you to Wholeness Wednesdays. So grab a cup of coffee or tea and join our host, Beatrice Hutchison, as we explore and experience our journey to complete wholeness.
Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of Completely Wholeness Wednesdays. I'm your host, Beatrice Hutchison, and for the month of October, we have a brand new series. So, welcome to October, welcome to fall. And so, we have our series this month in October that's entitled Stress Free Living DIY Self Care for the Fall. And so that's our series. And so each week we will be making something new together. And so I'll share a new product and show you how to make it with products you may have within your own home. But we're going to make some candles together. We're going to make scrubs. We're going to make bath salts and also some shower steamers, just in case you're not a bath person. But we're going to make these products together just to kind of help you relax and recharge this season. So, if you love cozy, affordable DIYs that also melt away the stress, make sure to hit subscribe so that you don't miss a thing. And so we're going to dive in today as we are making our stress relief candles. All right. So now as we talk about how we are going to make this particular product, the first thing we need to talk about are our supplies. What do we need in order to make our DIY stress relief candles? So first, we need to talk about wax, right? So you want to consider what type of wax. I only use natural and organic, those that's the healthiest, that I believe to be the healthiest. So I will use a coconut wax or a coconut apricot blend of wax. Personally, I don't do soy, but if you can use whatever you have accessible to you. So you have to make sure you have your wax. It could be in a block. It could be you can actually, some people remelt candles that they already have. If that's all you have access to, then you could also do that. You also need to have a heat safe jar or container, right? Something that you're going to put your candle in. And then also you need to have a candle wick or something that could serve as a candle wick. Also your essential oils. And so I like to use the coconut or coconut apricot blend because they hold the essential oils and still give a nice hot throw, right? So that's what I like to use. And we're going to use essential oils just to make sure that it's extra healthy, right? That it really does really hits your olfactory system and really gives you that soothing and calming and cozy environment or atmosphere that you certainly need, especially as the stress builds up. And so we're going to talk about some of the essential oils, but some, of course, that we know that are very good as far as stress relieving. You have your chamomile, you have your peppermint, you have, of course, good old faithful lavender, even things like patchouli can also be really soothing, and sandalwood if you want something that's a little bit more earthy. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to do our blend for the fall. So it's going to be something that you can use for the fall. Even orange is nice. It can also be energizing, right? The citrus in it. But it can create such a wonderful environment to help you relieve some stress. So we're going to talk about a few or one recipe that we'll make together. And then the other thing that you need to make sure you have would be either a heat safe jar or bowl or pitcher, or if you have a wax melter. I have a wax melter. If you have that, that's fine. If not, you can use a double boiler. And so what that would mean is that, if it's not something that's safe to go into the microwave, you could also have a pot, a double boiler. So that means you have one pot filled with water, and then you have the other pot inside of it, and then you put your wax inside there. And so it's important because you cannot burn your wax. Not a good thing, right? So you can do the double boiler. And something else that you could do and you can add, which is optional, not something that's mandatory. But if you have some extra herbs around the house, right? If you have your chamomile buds or you have some lavender, you can use any of those to kind of sprinkle on top. Even saffron is nice to add on top of your candles. And so, again, optional, not mandatory, but it just adds a little bit of extra coziness. All right, now let's talk about the next step. We need to talk about melting the wax, right? So, you start off by melting your wax. So whatever it is, for me, in my case, it is the coconut apricot blend. That's what I have on hand right now. And so you start off by melting your wax. So either if you have the heat safe bowl, you would put that into the microwave and melt it until and melt it, put it on until it dissolves it, right? Until it's completely clear, no chunks there. If you have a double boiler, you want to do the same thing, right? Remember, you have your pot, put some water in it, and then put the pot inside of it or bowl inside of it, and then have it melt that way. Or if you have a wax melter, then you can also use that. But if you're using a microwave, you want to do it in short bursts, right? Because then you want to make sure that you stir in between, because you want to make sure that you don't have any burning or scorching of your wax. And then you don't know how much time it will take depending on how much you put in there, right? So you want to make sure you measure it out and know how many candles you want to make. But for the purposes of this video, we're only making one. And so you want to make sure you do, if you're microwaving, you do it in short bursts so that you can stir in between, so that you can control how it melts a little bit better. And so the key is to melt it completely. As I mentioned, you want it to be clear, you want it to be smooth, and you want it to be ready for scenting, right? You don't want any issues. Next, let's talk about adding our essential oils. And so we're going to have the essential oils, and I'm going to show you each of the bottles that we'll use for our recipe. But we're going to use some orange, we're going to use some clove, we're going to use some cinnamon. They smell wonderfully for the fall season. And then we're going to add a little bit of lavender in there, right? And so those will definitely give us some extra calming effects. I may put a little drop of patchouli in there. We'll see. But these will really help to create a soothing environment, a cozy environment, as well as having some reactions on your nervous system, right? They can really help to calm and really help to soothe, especially if you're experiencing any type of anxiety, any types of anxiousness, being overwhelmed, being stressed, all of those sorts of things. We want to have an environment that is stress free. And so that's what we're creating here in these products, in this particular product, in the candle. So once we melt our wax, right, we want to add 15 to 20 drops of the essential oil. Or if you're doing multiple oils like I am, you would put in different amounts of drops of oil, right, to get it to the scent that you're after. And so remember, we're using a little bit of lavender in here. Lavender is excellent for relaxation. And so if you want to throw something in there, especially a lot of people during this season have a lot of allergies, right? And so if that is something that affects you, then you could definitely put a little bit of eucalyptus in there, or even peppermint. Those will also help with clear breathing, help to kind of open you up if you're really congested. And then also peppermint could also help with stress relief, right? And so all of these that we've been talking about, the clove and the chamomile, the cinnamon, all of those also can be very stress relieving. And that's what we're going to put in today. So you want to mix it all up, put it in your candle, and you want to make sure you mix it well, right? Because you want to make sure that your candle will hold the aroma. Next, you want to put in right before you pour in, right? So you've added your mixture, your recipe to your wax, right? And we're getting ready to make sure that we have our container set up. And so what we want to do is make sure that we do move as quickly as we can. I would always recommend that you have your candle container already set, right? So you want to already put your wick in there and be ready, because once you melt your wax, you need to get to a certain temperature before you're able to put in your wax, and also to pour, right? So the next step is setting your wick. And so this is something that I like to do beforehand, because it really is a race of time. Once you melt your wax, it has to get to a certain temperature. Then you pour in your blend or your recipe, and then it has to be at a certain temperature depending on the wax that you're using. It has to be a certain temperature in order for you to pour it. And so if you don't, you run the risk of having all of these like funnels and holes and gaps and all of those things in your candle. So you want to make sure that whatever wax you're using, that you look up what the temperature, the pouring temperature is. And so very, very important. And so you want to set your wick. So I usually will do this first before I even start to make the candle, but I'll get my container. I always spray it down, everything with alcohol, in and out, wipe it out, and then I will place my wick. So I use a sticker at the bottom of my wick to stick it into the glass, and then I have a candle, a wick positioner, right? And so that I put on the top, and that holds it in place. If you don't have that, you can use a clothespin. You can also, if you have popsicle sticks, you can put it on there, wrap the wick around, right? So there's so many things you can do depending on what you have access to. But you want to set your wick. Make sure that it is in your jar. Your jar is ready to go. And so while your wax is cooling just a tiny bit, right? Because we talked about that pour temperature. You want to make sure your jar is set. If you can do it ahead of time, do that. If not, you can also do it now, but you want to make sure that you are moving kind of swiftly, right? You want to make sure you at least have all of your supplies with you, where you don't have to get up, go look for something, because then you run the risk of allowing your wax to cool too much. So you can use that. You can use a clothespin. You can also use chopsticks or even tape across the top to kind of just hold it steady, right? So many things that you could do to hold it in place. You could also be creative with that, but you want to make sure that it is in place and that it is ready for pouring. Next, let's talk about pouring and decorating. So now you want to carefully pour your wax. Remember, depending on what the pouring temperature is, you want to put in your thermometer, and then once it's at the right temperature, then you pour. So you want to carefully pour the wax into your jar. You want to leave a little room at the top. You don't want to fill it all the way to the top. And so you can set it, and then you can also allow it to start to dry a little. And I mean, it's good to go as is. Once you pour it, you can let it just set, and then you can burn it and enjoy the wonderful aroma and the atmosphere that it will create. Or, as we talked about earlier, with the optional things of having some little flower buds, you can do that as well. And so you would do that here. You would allow it to set a little bit, right? Allow it to start to kind of fill in the bottom, because if you sprinkle it on top now, it will definitely sink down into the wax, and you'll have it throughout the candle. And that's okay too, right? So you can be creative and do whatever it is that you want to do with it. But if you want it to just rest on the top, you allow it to set for a little bit, and then you'll sprinkle it on the top. Some people like it to set fully, and then they'll go back in with a heat gun and then melt just the very tip of it, and then they'll sprinkle on their flower buds. And so we talked about putting on chamomile or maybe some lavender buds. And there's so many things you can put, rosebuds, whatever it is that you like to put on top. It adds just a little bit of extra coziness to it. And so not it makes it does allow it to be a little bit more gorgeous, right? It just adds a little an extra element. It's not just the pure wax, right? But it's something that really can it really adds a little bit of extra flavor to it, if I may say that. And so something I didn't mention is that if you want to also have a candle that has a little color to it, you can add that when after you melt your wax, right? That you can put in immediately. But with the essential oils, you do want to wait until it starts to cool a bit before you add those, because you don't want your scent, you don't want your oil to be too hot, your wax to be too hot, where it burns off your essential oils, right? And then you won't get that throw that you need once you do light it and burn it after it has set. So all of this very quick, very easy, hopefully with products or ingredients that you already have in your home, but it will help to give off stress-free drive or stress relief vibes in your home. Just create that atmosphere where you can just relax, just have be calming and cozy, just give you that time that you need for self-care, right? Because we all need self-care, and as I always say, and you need to be intentional about it. And so as your candle sets, you let it set, and it's best to have it to set for, I mean, it will set in a few hours, honestly. But the longer you let it set, right, you allow it to cure, the better your throw will be once you do burn it. So I like to leave it for a minimum of 4 days. I usually like to do a week or longer. But we're doing this so you can get some stress free, some stress relief. So if you'd like to do it sooner, you can. But if you can wait a few days, then do that. You'll get a better. It'll better scent the atmosphere once you begin once you light it and burn it. But a minimum, if you want to do it right away, it's a minimum of 24 hours that you should at least allow it to set and cure. And so once it's ready, you go back to it. You trim the wick, and you should make sure that you have at least a 1/4 inch there, and then that's it. You're good to go. Happy self care. And just like that, you've made your very own DIY stress relief candle, perfect for winding down after a long day, stressful day, cozying up with a book, or if you're just scrolling through your phone, or just simply setting the mood for a full self care night. Something that is so needed. And I always talk about we have to be intentional about taking care of ourselves. So this is just the beginning of our stress-free living DIY self-care series for the fall, right? We're super excited. And so next week we're going to be making DIY self body scrub. And so that will leave the body and the skin just glowing and just feeling wonderful, right? Just help to relieve the stress as well, but it'll give us that glow for the season. Again, we'll use a recipe that really just kind of speaks fall, that screams fall, right? But something that will also be stress relieving for you. And so I hope you enjoyed this. If so, hit the like button, subscribe for more cozy DIYs, and let me know in the comments what scents make you feel the most relaxed. For some people it's lavender, for others it's vanilla. For others, it can be eucalyptus. Patchouli is one that could be relaxing, or cinnamon. So tell me what is relaxing for you. I'd love to know your spin on it. I'd love to know what is relaxing for you, because for everyone it's something different, right? And so thank you so much for being with us today. And so even as we always end together, let us affirm together. I will be intentional about implementing self-care. All right. We're going to be together for October, making different things to hopefully help you to relieve some stress. And I don't know about you, it relieves my stress to be able to make things. That's just something that I love to do. So that's an additional peace that also allows me to feel relaxed and to get some relief. But also, just the fragrances, the essential oils that we're using in these products will also elicit a lot of that calmness and that soothing feeling that we are after. So, thank you again for being here with us. As always, take care of yourself, mind, body, and soul. Be well. Remember to be intentional about self care and be made whole.
We thank you for sharing this time with us here at Wholeness Wednesdays. Thank you for joining us to explore and experience this journey to complete wholeness. Please remember that we are only an email away. Your questions and input are welcome via bhutch@completelywhole1.com. See you next time here at Wholeness Wednesdays.